He's an Elite Series rookie from Oklahoma, John Soka.
I hope we're rolling. That serious look on your face.
Well, I'm thinking we can just talk about practice the way we always talk about practice.
But we got to start. You got to come alive. John's like not in the mood. Whose channel are we on? Anybody's? Everybody's? Welcome back. Panger. This make you jealous? It should make you jealous. I'm not talking about John. I'm talking about behind us, like the studio setup. We got the lighting. Look.
It took me 4 hours to put that together today.
Can you see the bass and the grouper on each side of us?
Luckily.
So this is. Have you seen the comedy deal that's on YouTube, Between Two Ferns?
Yes, I have seen Between Two Ferns.
Between
Two
fish.
bass. That one there is a giant.
Hey, the grouper's quite nice.
That's like a teener over here.
It is. You got to be from the West Coast to call them teeners, dude.
Really?
Yeah. We just call them biggins.
That's true.
That's a biggin. Anyway, we are in Okeechobee. And
Just finished up day 3 practice.
yeah. Yeah.
That's why the excitement's right here.
Yeah, because we're tired. It's 9 o'clock at night. But hey, we promised y'all we were going to bring you the goods this year. Something totally different. We're bringing it.
Yeah. We got a studio set up in this place.
It is.
Editing, everything.
I mean, lighting, editing. We got it all.
Yeah.
All right. So, trip to Florida was uneventful. We made it down here alive.
It was eventful. We had a Waffle House, 4 a.m. Waffle House stop.
We did have a 4 a.m. Waffle House, but that's really, for the hillbillies that watch us, that's pretty normal.
Yeah. Now, I was trying to get some sleep was what was happening. I was at Buc-ee's trying to get some sleep.
And I passed you.
And the phone rang.
Yeah.
And so you done woke me up, so I went off and took off and
Competitive nature, and you weren't going to
passed
let me you did pass me.
and then found the Waffle House.
Then we found a Waffle House because John had never had the Waffle House T-bone steak before. He never had steak and eggs.
Yeah.
That was first. So 3 days of practice. For me personally, I mean, it was typical practice. Not very good for me usually. Like very few bites. I liked it this week because I talked to absolutely no one but you the entire time I was on the water.
Yeah. I like it too. Same thing.
We were there first to put in, last to take out. There was no dock talk. We probably only talked, a couple times a day, maybe 3 at the most sometimes. We're both pretty good at just staying hooked up, trying to figure something out. We ran around and struggled quite a while by ourselves. We did a lot of that. Man, it was a fun week. I mean, it's typical Okeechobee, a lot of water to cover. This place is so big. Hey, question I was wondering today. Do you think this place is bigger than St. Clair?
Well, I've never been to St. Clair. I've been to Erie.
Yeah, it's not bigger than Erie. But, dude, it might be as big as St. Clair.
It's an ocean. It's just an ocean of amazing backwater to run. It's for an Okie that likes to fish like an Okie. Mm-hmm. It's actually pretty fun back there.
Well, I was thinking we only fish 3% of this lake or 1%.
Yeah.
Nobody fishes out in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's only 7, 8 foot deep out there.
Yeah. I don't even think I saw 7 or 8 foot all week. Well, in the rim ditch, running the rim ditch.
There's some deeper water out there in the channel. I ran the lake the long way today to South Bay, and there's some deeper water. But no, I never saw 20 or anything like that. But I saw 10, 11, 12 foot.
4 and 5 foot was about. I might have a spot that's got 7 or 8 found.
But pretty uneventful. I mean, lots of alligators. Try to get a couple of videos, pictures of some alligators jumping in.
I saw the biggest alligator I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yeah, I guarantee it was 14 foot.
Really?
I guarantee it. But that's not what caught my attention. What caught my attention was how close I was when he moved off his little, how they sit up there in the sun. Mm-hmm. He was this wide. That's what caught my attention.
Yeah.
And then after I saw how wide he was, then I'm like, whoa, his head's up here and his tail's here. His head was like that. I'm telling you, it was like that. And then I found a dead manatee today, which I thought was a dead alligator or a cow.
How big was the manatee?
about as big as that sofa there. I got a picture, and it'll be on the YouTube channel.
All swelled up.
All swelled up, so had some birds pecking on it.
It smell bad?
It did, but I didn't smell it when I first saw it. I got around, and then you could smell it for 100 yards.
I flipped something today in some reeds, and I brought back out, and it had that yellow, like what the old reeds look like after the hurricane came through. And I grabbed it, and I just picked it off my bait and threw it back. And the second I threw it back, I was like, I don't know if that was a reed. It smelled like something dead. And then it was on my fingers for hours. Hours. And it was funky.
You know what? I think that's what messes up some of these areas. I think all this stuff turns anaerobic when it dies. And eventually, it's not good for the fish.
Anaerobic?
Anaerobic.
What does that word mean?
I think it is, I think anaerobic means it basically takes the oxygen out of the water. So it's, when you step in silted stuff and all that gas comes up and it's just nasty smelling? That's anaerobic. But
never heard that word before.
Yeah, which is why in Florida a lot of fish don't feed on the bottom. It's because there's all that muck and filth and stuff. But anyways, my mind's just on fishing.
John, break down your practice.
Well, day one was pretty awesome. I had a lot of fun on day one. I mean, just like Bradley said, though, it's not like these fish are everywhere. Matter of fact, they're in very few places. So I went into one area and caught a 6-pounder and shook off a bunch of fish really quick. But there was like 20 boats in there. So it's going to be a real popular area. And I saw a bunch of big name guys in there too. So I knew I kind of found a popular area. And I left it and really did nothing for the rest of the day until about the end of the day. And I got into some dirty water. You're not supposed to fish the dirty water, right? But I was just tired and decided to fish it, and it looked right. And I caught another 6 and shook off another 8 fish on that stretch, about a 100-yard stretch. So I felt pretty good about my day one. I thought that I'd found 2 good areas and caught some good fish. But the second stretch, I was more excited about because I thought I figured out a pattern. Mm-hmm. Well, day 2 proved me wrong because I tried to run that thing. And the pattern was basically I was away from everybody else going to go ahead and fish in some dirty water. And I caught some fish on day 2. I mean, I might have caught 10 keepers, and they might have weighed a total of 10 or 11 pounds if you put them on the scales for a tournament. But it was not easy. It was tough, and it was one here and there, and it wasn't what day 1 was. And then day 3, which is today, I went without a bite until, when did I call you until you started getting bit? 4:30? 4 o'clock? I mean, I went all day, but it was good because I eliminated a bunch of things. I went to that rim canal and I went to look for some live scope fish and didn't find them. I went and fished some other areas. I decided the south end I wasn't going to mess with. I went as far west and south as I wanted to and kind of eliminated some of that. So it's kind of pushing my mentality. So the lake's getting smaller for me right now. But went back into that area that I found on day 1 and started shaking off bites again. So I pretty much, sometimes you can have too much in a tournament. I definitely don't have too much. I basically got one little dot, and it's just like they say in Florida. I think I can power pull down and catch a limit. I don't know if more fish will come in or go, or another boat's going to beat me there or not. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Fishing around people, and I don't know what size they are because I didn't set the hook, but looks like we're going to be able to catch a limit. That at least feels good. I hope so.
Bradley, break down your experience with Okeechobee.
This is my 5th or 6th time here. I've had one really good one. Obviously, I won one here. And then I've cashed a couple of checks, and then I've finished terribly the other 2 or 3 times. So it's about like Florida for just about most of us. It's 50-50. Seems to be my batting average. I'll tell you this, it looks a lot different. I was telling John, Okeechobee is it's so big, it's kind of a wild animal all in itself, and it changes its look all the time, and I'm pretty used to that. But this morning I was getting gas, or maybe after I put in, I was talking to Brian New, and he was asking if I'd been to South Bay yet, and I said no, and he said, oh, when you get down there, you've got a real change of look. And I was like, yeah, that's what I kind of figured. You know, this place changes all the time. But dude, South Bay after that hurricane, it's unrecognizable. It's totally different. So that was pretty amazing in my past experiences to now. Like I said, this place changes a lot, but I've never seen it change that much.
Is it the hurricane from last fall?
Mm-hmm.
Just the flooding
Yeah, on the wind.
and the wind.
Flooding in the wind.
So this isn't from like 3 or 4 years ago.
No.
This is literally from last
fall. The
So
one
we-
that tore up the whole East Coast over there, or the West Coast of Florida.
Yeah, so we fished the MPFL in like November, and I think we were about a month after the hurricane, so October-ish is when that thing hit.
Yeah, it devastated Southwest Florida on the coast, and obviously it devastated South Bay. Obviously, it's quite different looking, but overall, you know, I mean, it's still Okeechobee. A lot less aquatic vegetation than normal. Watercolors, there's fewer places with clear water. There seems to be, like in the past, there's been a lot more productive water, and now it seems to be very minute, small places, which is why I think you're seeing all the boats gang up into small areas on top of each other.
Man, I found some beautiful stuff that even had the right color water, and 0 boats around, and 0 fish. I just can't get bit. And I mean, there's 0 reason with the eye that there's just not a ton of fish there. So I think that's probably the majority of the lake's that way, kind of dead water.
It's really hard to get off by yourself here. I mean, I've tried and tried and tried, but it's tough. Like, if you can find it, you know, maybe you had a way to win a tournament, but man, it's hard to find. It is. It's hard to find to get off by yourself. It seems like these fish are magnets to that clear water, and what clear water there is, there's not much of it here, and there's not much aquatic vegetation, and the places that have it have fish. You know, and it has boats. A lot of them.
I was excited. We'll find out for after the tournament. But that one spot that I found, that 100-yard stretch, ain't no one fishing it. It doesn't look right. But I went back and checked it today and looked at it, and it's gotten. It had cleared up a little bit. Is what had happened, and I thought it was getting dirty when I found it because I'd never seen it. I'd never been here before. But the way the wind was blowing, it was blowing some clear water into it. And then now the wind's changed directions, and so the dirt from the lake's backfilling on it. And there's a chance I don't catch a fish there during the tournament.
Yeah.
But if they're there, it'd be one of those things you're talking about. Like,
Yeah. We were just talking earlier about, like, man, I don't know that I've ever had a feeling like that I'm just going to Katie bar the door. It's almost like you kind of like what happened to me at practice day. You hollered at me about 4:30 and kind of got me on a little bite, and I made a few tweaks, and I had 2 or 3 bites there at the end of the day. It opened up another window, right? And I kind of like that in tournament fishing. It seems like if I just start kind of peeking in, and then kind of go figure it, maybe, possibly, potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed, you can start kind of adding to that and figuring some more things out in the tournament. That's when they really come together well.
well, we were also talking about the fact that right before we got here, MLF or FLW Invitational, they smashed them, mainly winding.
Yep.
Mainly. So practice, we never, I've never been here, but it's all new for you. So we go out winding like crazy on day one, and we catch them.
And we do.
Chatterbaiting, swim jigging.
The whole 9.
And so day 2, we're going to keep doing it, right?
Yep.
And the day started struggling more, no big ones, and you just feel like it's dying. And then day 3, the whole first part of the day, it's no bites, no bites, no bites.
Yep.
And so at this point, we've kind of narrowed down where we're wanting to fish at least.
Yep.
So we go ahead and slow down a little bit.
And we both caught ourselves back in our same little area.
Yeah, we called each other. We're like, I'm checking my spot, like don't pick on me, but I'm checking it, and you're like, oh, you're doing the same thing.
Yep.
So that was kind of funny, but that's what we're doing. We're trying to.
I wasn't actually checking the spot itself. I was trying to kind of expand around that
Right.
area because there's so much of it that I hadn't been into yet. But still, it was the same thing, like no bites, and it's slowing down. And we talked about this, like when those guys are whining, I feel like a lot of those fish were pre-spawn and just coming in and real hot and heavy. And those guys were whining and caught them. And when we got here, the wind's blowing, lots of things happen. I mean, when I say the wind's blowing, it blew 30 miles an hour all day long, and that's not an exaggeration. Like it was more than that. It was a very heavy wind. And so
This is windburn, not sunburn.
reaction bites were on, and then as we've kind of progressed through this thing, it seems like they've locked down on beds, and we can't see them. It's not like we're sight fishing, but those are the telltale signs that we're getting for sure. And so that's kind of how we're about to go into this tournament without writing off the. We're not going to write off the reaction bite though.
No, not. So I found a little way that they're setting up, and I found a weight that seems to be working. Where I can fish it efficiently but still get bit. I always want to throw the heaviest weight that I possibly can get away with.
Yep.
Unless it's just so big that it's putting a hole, knocking the hook out when you catch them. But if I can get away with a 3/4 ounce, that's what I'm in Florida. That's my go-to size.
5/16.
I'm throwing a 5/16 right now.
What is it with you in the 5/16?
Well,
It's on your worm weight. It's on your jig weight.
I always have a 1/2 ounce tied on. I always have a 3/4 ounce tied on. This is not in just.
So for me, it's either because we carry so much stuff.
And then I have a
5/16 or
5/16.
3/8.
Yeah.
Like somewhere, if a 5/16, if a 16th ounce is going to make that much difference, I've got to choose between one or the other.
Yeah.
I can't carry 5/16 too. Not worm weights, not jigs.
I
say that my LBJ's 5/16.
It does make a difference. I can tell a difference in the fall. I think that a quarter may be better. By the time the tournament goes on, we'll see. It may be a 3/16 thing.
Yeah.
By the time some pressure gets put on it, but the thing is when you're practicing, you don't have it figured out. You're going along flipping reeds, you're flipping every kind of grass there is, and there's 10 different kinds of grass, and you're dragging a lot. You're letting it sit a lot because in my mind I'm like, okay, well maybe there's a bed. I'll flip over there. Okay, it falls down, it hits, spooks the fish off. Okay, I'm going to count to 10, let that fish come back, and look at it. Then I'm going to kind of give it a wiggle. I'm looking at live scope every once in a while. When I wiggle, I see a fish take off. I don't know if they're crappie or bass. So I'm like, well, I can't give much movement at all. So I spent a lot of the day trying to figure out how to just generate a strike because I'm not getting strikes. And then all of a sudden, I start reading the grass right, and I start seeing these holes in my mind. I'm like, oh, there's a bed there. And I drop in as soon as it goes in. It's like, you don't have to do none of this like fancy stuff. You just put it in the right hole. And so once we figured that out, that's when I called you and said, hey man, this is they're 100% bedding, and it's isolated stuff. It right now it looks like away from the milfoil.
Yep.
And the deeper the better. And I think I had 8 mats in a row. I'm going to call them mats, but they're really isolated. They're not real mats. They're not a mat. It's not topped out. But just, and there's different various kinds of grass. It didn't seem like, it didn't really have a specific one that was better than the others. It just, the isolated area needed to be about the size of a boat or a boat deck. It needed to be thick, but thin enough that there was holes. If you had that combination of 4 or 5 foot of water, there was a fish there. And I mean, I ran like 8 in a row. And I think I called you when I was about on number 5. I was like, hey, I think I finally got something figured out, like actual figure, like something that I can pattern.
And I was in a totally different part of the lake, and I literally sit down. Didn't have a 5/16, so I had to choose between the 3/8 and the quarter. So I went with the quarter. But I think I stood right back up, and I mean, within first 2 or 3 flips, don't. I was like, John, it's going on this evening.
Now, I did catch a 6-pounder on day 1, swimming a jig over this certain dollar pad patch, and I found this one. It was the first one I'd found, dollar patch. I catch that 6, and then I actually had another one blow up and shook it off. And I call you, and I'm like, hey man, they're in the dollar patch. Well, I didn't know at this point that there's like acres of this thing.
Miles and miles of dollar pads.
And you're sitting in it, and you're like, I can't get bit in it.
Yeah.
And it was literally the first one that I cast on. Well, since then, I've had 3 days of trying to duplicate it with no luck. So I went back at the end of the day to that, covered my hooks, and I got a spot where I can power pull down. I had 4 good bites blow up on that thing in less than 5 minutes time. And I think what I found is I've got a little spawning area, And right next to the spawning area, it's almost like they're staging in this $1 pad patch. It's got some milfoil or whatever underneath it. It's got some shallow water. It kind of tapers out. And a lot of the boats that I see come in just blow right over it, like literally drive over it. I don't know why. I think maybe because it looks like the other 10,000 acres of it, you know. And so that won't be a flipping deal if those fish fire. That's going to be a moving bait deal. So
I don't have anything like that. I've got a little chatterbait hole that I'd like to start on in the morning, and then I did find some punching fish just right down the stretch from them, but it wasn't anything spectacular. I've got one little stretch that's in there with you in that same neck of the woods. It's swim jig fish, you know, and I had some good bites in there on the day that the wind blew. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned about that just because, one, there's so much traffic in there. Two,
they start locking down.
They start locking down, and I'm not going to be able to swim that jig, and I don't have anything isolated to be able to throw at in there because I can't visually see it with my eyes.
Yeah, and if they do get done with their business and they spawn, are they going to pop right up and then chase down a swim jig, or are they going to chill out for a little bit?
That's right.
And that's when you're going to have to do the Cinco
That's
thing.
That's a good question. That's a good question. Because I got a feeling they're not just going to jump up and feed.
Yeah, not right away.
No.
I don't know. They do everything so fast here. I don't know. I haven't caught very many fish that look post spawn. The bigger females that I caught all had full of eggs.
Well, we've been seeing some fry, and we've
Yeah.
been talking about it. And there's
Yeah.
definitely some post spawn fish in here, but it does not seem like it's the majority. I think it's the first quarter, first third, probably.
So you got all these different areas, or as the old man told me today, walls. You know, these different areas of the lake, different sections, different. They're all named different names or whatever. But every little one of them, like I went into a creek today, and where that manatee was at that was dead, and every cast, and I'm talking about, I mean, this area was 80 acres. It's big. And
Fry everywhere.
fry every cast. Every cast fry. And I went into the back and the water got real clear and I saw an 8 to 10 pounder swimming around. And when I saw that, I spent 3 hours in there without a bite.
South end of the lake was like that too. A lot more fry.
And
Seemed
this
like it
was
further
more
along.
towards the south end of the lake. Yep, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe a thing.
We'll find out.
Yeah. There's definitely some eelgrass hydrilla stuff going on, and a lot of these quote unquote areas where there's a lot of boats, that's the one common theme that you see because the water's clear. It's clear because they haven't sprayed that hydrilla and that eelgrass in that area, and it's filtering that water all the time, which is keeping that Florida ecosystem going, and it's drawing all the fish to those spots. So, you saw like Joshua Weaver win the FLW last week, and it looks like that's, he's right in an area where there's a bunch of hydrilla, and I don't know about eelgrass right where he was at, but
It's one of the few places that has aquatic vegetation in the lake, and it's a very small area,
Yep.
and it's got a lot of boats sitting on it.
Every one of those spots you find, and there's probably 4 to 6 of them on the lake right now.
Yep.
I mean, dude, it wouldn't surprise me to go in there and see 40 boats.
Well, there's
sitting
only
in there.
100 of us, so
Well, I'm talking about with locals and stuff too.
Yeah. Mostly the locals tend to be crappie fishermen for the most part this week.
That's true with 100 boats. If you spread them over 5 different locations, so that's 20 boats a spot, and then you got some guys that are going to do.
That's right.
That's probably about what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I think that is what it's going to look like. But we've been going candles at both ends for 3 days. I am completely exhausted. We've been getting up at 5 o'clock every morning, going to bed at about 9 o'clock. We've been getting to bed early.
Except for Super Bowl.
Except Super Bowl night, that's right. Well, I skipped Super Bowl.
Today's Valentine's Day. What'd you get your wife?
She told me that she bought some flowers for herself. I told her
what do you get a woman that's got the man of her dreams, huh?
Yeah.
She's already got everything she needs.
I'm telling you. What does she need me for?
Yeah.
Old fisherman. What'd you get your wife?
I got her some flowers ordered about a week and a half ago, but I got 2 daughters too, like you do, and I got them. They're still at that age, especially the youngest. That like, you can get her a card, she's excited, but when she got flowers, she was
Super excited.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
that, and plus that makes Mama happy when
I
the daughters are
got a
happy.
feeling I'm going to be doing the Valentines when I get home.
That works.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna have to do with my mom. So, yeah.
Well, all right. I think this is it for our very first late night dock talk. This is fine lighting we've got here. Like I said, Panger eats your heart out. This is as good as BTO, kind of, sort of, without Zona and without Van Dam announcing retirement. But it's as good as John and I can do. We got a deer head hanging on the wall. Maybe we film one of these more this week. We'll get the deer over here too.
And
This is just two guys in between two fish.
Yeah.
I like it. Two guys in between two fish. All right, we out.